Hey YouTube, what's up? Scarecrow here to do my updated profile on my blaster deck now that set 11's out. So, get started with our starting Vanguard, Winkle Brave. This card is really great. This card accomplishes so much for their deck. Yeah, this card, I don't know if this deck would even be good without this card. This card's just that important. For our triggers, we're running 4 of our new crit here with the Flame of Victory skill. For Floral Knight Flogel, because this card is amazing. It's one of the best triggers in the game. This card is like crazy good. And then I'm playing actually 4 more crits for a total of 12. Because this deck hits hard. Very aggressive early game deck. And then last, I'm playing 4 Mascals for our heals. For our grade 1 lineup, for starters, I'm playing 4 Leanne. I'm not 100% sold on this card yet. The Soul Blast can be tricky sometimes, but this card is a perfect guard without actually having to discard. So it's pretty cool. Blasters typically don't have a very long late game anyways. They beat down in the early turns and then try to finish you within their first couple strides anyways. So usually the Soul Blast isn't a problem, but next playing for Blaster from Barkles. Really good card in this deck. Unflips. This deck is very counter blast heavy. And after that, we have our 3 Sisyllus, our stride fodder. Just 3. It's working fine so far. But the deck does need the stride, so, and we have a low grade 3 count. And finally, our last grade 1 is playing 3 Richard. I bet you can guess what one of the grade 2s in this deck is. Grade 2 lineup, we're playing 4 regular Blaster Blade and 2 Spirits. Spirit is if you actually manage to draw your ideal turn 2 ride, but other than that, he has the name and accomplishes a lot of other things for the deck. I don't think I really need to explain this. We all understand why these are here. Next, the one that was obviously forecasted, playing for Benin. The Soul Blast can be kind of a hard cost in this deck that you're using it to call out the Richard draw. But what this card gives you early game is so amazing. Like if turn 2 you can ride a Blaster and then call this guy to rear guard and call Richard and draw. Like there's so much pressure there. This card's really good. So, it's one of the best grade 2s in the game. Speaking of good grade 2s, although it's not as good in this build, playing 3 Lu for our last grade 2 lineup. He's not as busted as he is in like other decks, but he's still pretty decent, so as far as like options go, he's one of the better. Then we're playing 4 Blaster Blade Exceed. Popping cards when you ride them is good, so you can just keep that early game aggression on, drop them, kill stuff, keep beating them down. And then for our last 2 spots of the main deck, we're playing 2 Lu. Other than being a grade 3, we can use a stride fodder. He has a pretty useful rearguard skill. This deck can go through its Blaster Blades really quick, so his skill to put them back is pretty helpful, as well as he gets big while doing it. And he's a Blaster, so even if you have to ride him, at least he's doing the most important thing, having a name. Moving on to the grade 4s, playing 3 Gancelot. This card's going to be your first stride. He's a really good first stride, and then sometimes you will go into him a second time, sometimes a third, especially if you're up against a matchup like Link Joker. He's going to be very helpful in the sense that if you're only going to be able to tackle your Vanguard, you might as well have quad drive and a crit. So, but 4 seems like it would be kind of pointless. Even 3 is redundant most of the time, but it's probably the best option still. Next, we have our 4 Alfreds. Really, really great card. Like, it's hard to actually tell which is better, him or Gancelot. They're both pretty amazing cards. Then we're playing 2 Altmile. He's just there for give the deck versatility. He doesn't get used a lot. That's why we're only playing like 1 set of him, but he can be very helpful sometimes. Like, he is actually the best play just to go grab a grade 2 and power it up. Then we're playing 2 Religious. You don't use this card that much, but there are some situations where you'll go for your first stride and just bringing this thing out, giving it a crit, and powering up the rear guard, and just pushing to kill your opponent that turn, so that the game doesn't actually make it any further. It's actually the better play. So then for our last grade G unit, we're playing 1 GB8 guy. I never bothered to learn their names. I just call them GB8s. This guy is a pretty good GB8. I've even used him before where I swung with him, and I called out cards from my deck, even cards like grade 2s and 3s that I just put them in the back row, even though it wasn't helping, just to like make it so I was like, yeah, these cards don't do anything, but I've pulled out everything out of my deck except the triggers now, so it's game. You don't get to use him a lot, but he's pretty strong still. So moving on to the G units, 1 Laser Guard, 1 Mascal. He's the G guard I actually use the most in the deck. He's just a very easy, like 25k shield. 1 E-Salute. I almost never use her because I don't want to actually do the counterblast, but sometimes she can be like the right option. And last, playing 1 Marin skill. The downside is it's a Soul Blast, and as I was already talking about, the Soul Blast can be rough in this deck, but he's an easy like 25k shield. So I usually prefer Mascal. Other than the fact that he flips, he's an easy shield as long as I have something out. And then after that, usually Marin's the next best thing. But sometimes, like if I'll be playing against Narukami, I'll have no front row, but I'll have some back row, and then E-Salute's turning out to be better. So that's it for this deck profile. This is a very aggressive deck if you're playing it correctly. That's why this deck is like such a strong deck. You get to push really hard early game, calling out cards, drawing cards, getting crits. You can beat your opponent up really bad before you even get to like your opponent makes it to grade 3, before you even make it to strides. Then you get into strides and you have like one of the best strides in the game in the form of Gancelot. So if you're going to play this deck, you should learn how to play it aggressive and play it fast from the very beginning.